Hi all, today we talk about the good, the bad and the ugly when it comes to the property market in Greater London or the UK. So what I would talk about today is my personal experience from Greater London. However, I think that probably this can be applied to the UK. So this is where I need you. Let me know in the comments below what your experience has been when finding a home, buying a home in the UK. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin with the good. So the good is, first of all, the excitement of finding your own home. Although, to be honest, I feel it's a little bit like dating. It's a little bit like going on all these dates, going on all these viewings and constantly being disappointed if it's not the right one. I don't know how you feel, but this is how I felt about dating, and this is exactly how I feel about this process now. Just sharing. The good is the opportunity of paying less than rent when you finally do own your own home, when you pay off a mortgage, that you are paying towards your own home and not someone else's dream or someone else's bank account. Another opportunity when it comes to the good is the opportunity, well, this goes really before you buy the property. If you have signed up for a lifetime ISA years ago and paid into it and had the great opportunity to receive 25%, can I call it cashback? But anyway, 25% from the government. The other good is that when you are a first-time buyer, is that my boyfriend keeps sending me messages even though he's upstairs and he knows that I'm filming a video. Yeah. So the other good is that if you are a first-time buyer, you're not in a chain, so you're in a relatively good position in terms of being able to make a move immediately. But also, first-time buyers do not pay the tax, do not pay stamp duty. When you're not in a chain, you may be favored over somebody who is in a chain. Actually, you probably are favored. I mean, I would definitely favor somebody who's not in a chain. I don't understand my own writing. You can get appointments fast. I don't know what that means. You can get a mortgage in principle quite quickly. And currently, we're in 2025 as I'm filming this video. It's more of a buyer's market than a seller's market, so you may be able to get yourself a good deal. Now, let's carry on with the bad. The bad is that a lot of real estate agents, frankly, lie to you. I don't know if they feel bad about it, but they do it. I mean, maybe they wouldn't consider it a lie when they withhold information. I don't know. But they try everything at their end to sell a property. And if that requires them leaving out information that may stop you from buying the place, then that's what they will do. And I'm at the point where, well, I don't like it. I don't like it. Because the thing is, if they know something about the property that will come out in the survey anyway, well, maybe it won't. Maybe they're hoping that it won't. But if you get a good surveyor, there's a good chance that whatever somebody is trying to hide will come out. It's really time wasting, because if it comes out anyway, and then you've wasted money, you've wasted time, and if you could just be honest and say, look, this is what's good about the property, this is what's not so good about the property, this is the price, and it's a fair price because of the pros and cons. I just really wish that it would be like that, because it would save us time and money, including the real estate agents. You know, any other product on the market, you have to declare if something's wrong with it. Like, for example, if you sell something secondhand on Vinted, and I mean, a property sale, unless it's a new build, is not really anything else, only that it's a much bigger purchase. But it is a secondhand sale because somebody's used it, somebody's lived in it. And going back to the Vinted example, you have to declare whatever is wrong with the product. And if you don't declare it and you sell it and then it comes out later, then the buyer has the option to send it back to you and you have to give them back the money. So it's not worth it. And I feel like it's similar here. If you make the property look good and you hide everything that's wrong with it, but then it all comes out in the survey, then what a waste. What a waste. And it's so disappointing and so dishonest. Like, why is this particular market, for most people, the biggest purchase in their life? Why are people allowed to withhold information and lie? Or maybe they're not, and they're just doing it anyway. I don't know, but it really upsets me. It really does. Please comment below what you think of this. I would really like to know. The other bad thing is overpricing. Currently, I see a lot of properties that are just overpriced, sitting on the market. Nobody's buying them, and they either come down in price over time if somebody is really ready to sell, or they leave the market and are just not sold. But this is what's currently happening. Look at this advertisement that I came across yesterday. A 1-bedroom house. And now look at the description of it. It says here, ideal purchase for those on a limited budget. I'm sorry, I find that a bit rude. Offers in excess of £300,000. Calling that a limited budget? I was not pleased when I read that. The next thing that I have on my list, I've already mentioned it. The bad is also that if you do a survey and things come out that you didn't know about and they are so crucial that you actually do not want to buy the place anymore, then you've lost money that you invested into this survey. Another bad, it doesn't happen all the time. Well, to be honest, it does happen quite frequently. Sometimes it's not so bad. So what I'm talking about is that the size of the property may be wrong in the advertisement. Now, it could be either way, but most of the time it's to the seller's advantage. Most of the time flats are advertised at a larger, like they state a higher square footage. And then either when you see the property, you notice that, or if you look up the EPC, because the EPC is a document that is not about square footage, but it does state the square footage of a property. And this is when you then realize whether the agent has lied or not. Sometimes the EPC is wrongly advertised. I mean, most of the time this EPC is not wrongly advertised. What I'm referring to actually is sometimes it is advertised EPCC and then there's a question mark, and what that means is that that's the potential. That's not the property's current state. And then the other thing that's often wrongly advertised is the location. Now, I understand that one of the reasons is obviously for privacy. Somebody may not want the exact location advertised online and then someone can look up where they actually live. But what estate agents often do is put the pin closer to the train station so that it looks like the property is close to Transford. And that's a bonus for a lot of people, especially here. A lot of people that are commuting into London and who don't have a car, they are looking for a property where they don't have such a long walk to the train station. Yeah, it is a bit annoying to look up at property, look where it's located, and then when you go to view it, realize it wasn't a 10-minute walk from the station, it was actually a 20-minute walk from the station, and that is quite a difference. Okay, let's talk about the ugly. One thing that I want to talk about is asbestos. Asbestos is a material that was used since 1930. Well, it's not used anymore. It was used roughly between 1930 and 1990, although people tend to say anything below the year 2000 could potentially have asbestos. And what I've noticed when I'm going to viewings, I mean, a lot of asbestos is difficult to notice, but there is one type of asbestos. The brand is called Artex and it's in the ceiling and it has a certain pattern. And when you see that pattern, there is a very high chance that the flat or the property has asbestos. I mean, that the asbestos is in the ceiling. It takes money and time to have it removed. And most people have not taken the time and the money to have it removed. So this is a really bad thing, because if it's untouched, it's not a problem. But how do you know that if it's really old and there could be cracks, you don't know if the asbestos is in the air or not? You can take a sample, or the seller can take a sample and find out. Between 1930 and 2000, that's a very long period of time where asbestos was used, which means it is still in a lot of buildings. The other thing is cladding. Grenfell, you probably know about the Grenfell fire that occurred in 2017.
I encourage you to watch the documentary that has recently been released on Netflix on the Grenfell Tower fire. I have literally just finished watching it, and I can only tell you, you have to watch it. I cried my eyes out. I could not believe what was behind this whole story, that it actually could have been prevented 100%.
This is really when people started talking about cladding. I mean, it was existent before, but people didn't talk about what the implications could be. But since 2017, it is not used anymore. When you look for flats online, if it says that they have, I'm looking at my screen because I want to read you the name of the certificate. It's called a EWS1 certificate, which is what flat have if they had the cladding removed. Now, I actually haven't come across this, but a friend of mine said that when her son was looking for a flat, they saw a lot of flats advertised that also advertised that they have this certificate. But again, it's something to beware of.
The reality is that just like the asbestos, cladding is still around because it takes time and money to remove it, and in a lot of places it has not. Even though it is a safety concern, it is still around, so you have to be really careful.
The other thing that I feel is not really talked about is that if there is a chain, and for those of you who don't know what a chain is, it means that, for example, if somebody is selling their flat and they are still living in the flat, that it could take them months, sometimes years, to actually find the place that they want to buy. And then you as a buyer, unless you have another agreement or they have said, okay, in 6 months time, like if you buy our place, we're willing to move out in 6 months time, whether we found a new place or not, like if you have some sort of agreement. But if you don't, they can also, because you don't own anything until you sign the papers, they can live in that property for as long as they want, and you can just be waiting around. And you can have paid for the survey, you could have paid for your solicitor, you could have paid for everything, and then in the end they say, oh, we changed our mind, we're not moving. Or we can't find anything, we're not moving. This can be so disappointing and so heartbreaking, and it's happened to so many people, because when you make an offer and the seller accepts the price, that agreement is worth nothing. Apparently it's different in Scotland, but here in England, anybody can pull out at any time until the contracts are actually signed. So you have to be really, really, really careful with chains. Then if you are planning to buy a flat, you should really look into whether you are willing to buy a leasehold or share freehold. Because if you buy a leasehold, you literally own nothing. You own absolutely nothing. So I'd be really, really careful with that. I'm not going to explain all the details in this video because that would make this video just too long. But I put it under the ugly because there are people who have a leasehold property have experienced some ugly things. So I want you to be aware of this and look into this before you buy. And then shared ownership. Not everything about shared ownership is bad. I've made a whole video about shared ownership, which if I remember I will link here. But again, be very, very wary, because you could find yourself in a situation where you have either an unsellable place or you are in a situation where you can never own the place because it's increased in value so much. These are the really ugly things. There's obviously a lot to consider, a lot to know and look into when you're buying a property. I mean, anywhere in the anywhere in the UK, but anywhere in the world, I guess. But this is just for the Greater London / UK market. And yeah, please let me know your experience. I'd be really keen and interested to hear about it. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you have any questions or any video ideas, please let me know in the comments. And I'm looking forward to my next video. Bye!